Da-dum, da-da-dum, da-da-dum, da-da-da-da-da-dum, da-da-da-da-da-dum. What does that even mean, Bowers Game Corner?
Ahoy there, YouTube! I'm back again today for another game review. Today, I'm very excited to check out Tile Chess from Steve Jackson Games for 2 to 4 players, ages 10 plus. It'll take about 1 to 2 hours to play. And in Tile Chess, you are going to be thinking outside the board. That's their slogan. As you're going to be playing chess, but there's lots of different twists and turns. First and foremost, there are no boards. You're only going to be getting chess tile pieces. Also, you can play up to 4 players. What? You can go through your own pieces. What? And instead of killing the other player's king in a 3 and 4 player game, you just capture them and then take all their pieces, potentially. What? Does it all work out, though? I don't know. Let's open it up and I'll tell you. Alright then, we're going to take a look at what you're doing inside of Tile Chess. Think outside the board. Before we get started, I do want to mention, I didn't mention some pros and cons, but the components are very, very nice. These tiles are fantastic, outstanding, big thumbs up on that. I just wanted to mention that before I forgot. So, first and foremost, we got our handy-dandy rule booklet. It's 2 pages, double-sided, full color, full pictures, illustrations, examples, and it's pretty well done for the most part, except for the fact it doesn't really go over too much how you start the game. It does give you directions, but I just want an illustration example instead of this little thing right here. So tile chess is a lot different than regular chess, but it also has a lot of similarities. So we'll go over the differences, I'll show you the components, and we'll go into how the game works. So first and foremost, you might notice that there's no board at all. You're going to be moving tiles around a grid, so to speak, that you are going to create when you first start the board. Also, there's no checkmate. In a 2-player game, there essentially is a checkmate because you just win the game automatically. But in a 3 and 4-player game, because yes, that's another big change, you can play a 3 and 4-player game, you are going to be able to capture someone else's king, and then you also capture all their pieces. So, for instance, if they had 3 pawns and a knight out there and their king, then you would get to replace their 3 pawns and a knight with your 3 pawns and knight that you have, as long as they have been captured. So, for instance, let's just say that you've had 1 knight and 1 pawn captured. You would get to replace those 2 with your pieces, so your army would actually grow larger, which is definitely a unique twist to the game. Also, you can move through other people's pieces. So normally in your typical game, so let's just say that everything is like this. In your typical game of chess, this piece could not move, assuming that this back was blocked. However, in this game, everyone can pass through everyone, just like kind of the horse can normally. So that does make it, and it does actually make the game really interesting, because you have to look you have to get out of your normal chess set of mind where you're looking at what could possibly attack you, and then you have to look behind what could possibly attack you to see if they're also have the ability to attack you. And we already talked about the 4-player limit. So, tile chess, what you're going to be doing when you first start the game is you're going to decide how many pawns you want to start off with. So, they say that the less pawns you have, the quicker the game is going to be, which makes kind of sense. And then you just go. And how you go is you decide who's going to go first, and then they set out a piece. Just like this. They set out their pawn, and the next player is going to have to set out another piece, but it has to touch this piece on somehow. So they could place this right here. Then the next player is going to go, and they might place this guy right here. The only rule for this is you have to touch someone else's piece, and you also have to place your king last. So once you get everything set up, what's going to happen is that you set the king up last. Whoever set out first is going to go first, because it kind of balances it out, because they don't get to plan. The person that was blue gets to plan a little bit more on what the green was doing, because they get to see where their king is first, so on and so forth. And when you start the game, what you're going to do is you're going to just play a regular game of chess. You might go bloop, and you would take that piece, and that piece would now be gone. And there are some different rules, though, that will spice up the game, and some that will slow down the game. So first and foremost, you can get trapped. And trapped is where you can't move your piece, because if you did, you would not be touching anything. So let's just say this right here. So right now, scoot it down a little bit so you can see a little bit better. This piece would be, no, actually that piece would not be trapped. That's a bad example. Let's just, okay, we'll do this. So this piece right now is trapped, because if they moved anywhere, they would not be able, they can't move, because they can't move anywhere that they are not touching something, which means that they cannot move that piece, which is not an option. And there's some other interesting things with that, because you could potentially be trapped. You can be what's called threatened. So if you're threatened, that means you're actually in check, but you're in check by a piece that cannot move. So let's just say that this guy had his king all the way over here. I can't find the king, so we'll just put the queen right there. So let's just say that this scenario were to happen, and oh no, this guy's in check, but you know what? He's only threatened because this piece cannot actually move without suffering the wrath. Actually, I don't think that would happen because he would just take that place right there. So that's a terrible example. There are situations in which you can get what is called threatened, where you're in check, but since that piece cannot move, you are not in check. There's also situations where you put someone in check, and then you decide not to do that because it's not a good strategic move, because maybe they don't have that many pieces and you have a better move plan. Like I said, there's tons and tons of different strategy that you have to look at in this game as opposed to regular chess, especially when you're playing with 3 and 4 players. But that's about really what I can tell you. I mean, it is a simple, straightforward game, but there's a good deal of strategy here. I'll talk more about the pros and cons. So that, in a nutshell, is how you're going to play tile chess. Alright then, Tile Chess from Steve Jackson Games, one of my final thoughts. For the pros, let's go to the cons. First, on the con side, the game is not going to be for everybody. First, I think if you don't like chess, this is not going to convert you, because it still is very chess-like. All the pieces move the exact same, with the exception of the pawns, who can now go backwards and backwards reverse and that sort of thing. But it still feels very much like chess. Also, if you don't know how to play chess, this will not teach you how to play chess, which is a little bit of an annoyance if you get this because you're excited to learn chess. You're like, yeah, I'm going to learn chess, and then it doesn't show you how to play chess. That's a little bit crummy. Also, the game it has some weird quirks to it. First and foremost, it plays shorter the more players you have, which really doesn't happen too terribly often with just about any game. 2 players is actually lengthy. It says 1 to 2 hours. With 2 players, it can stretch out because you'll get lots of things trapped. And trapping, that's one of my main problems I had with this game, is that your pieces get trapped. And it's a necessary evil because you don't have a board, but without that board, things get trapped, and you just get into these little slow-moving standstills, and I didn't like that. I liked it better with 3 and 4 players, but I'll tell you more about that in the pros. So on the con side, if you don't like chess, I don't think you're going to like this. If you do like chess, I wonder, though, if you're going to like it that much, because it does change so much. I mean, you go through the pieces. The setup is one thing that really, everybody I played with just had trouble wrapping their brain around it. Like, we get to set up wherever we want, so I can put this here next to you or behind you. And I told them yes because the rules were poor in the fact that they don't really tell you. They need like a mock of what a starting setup should look like, because they don't give me enough information, and I think I'm doing the starting setup right, but I'm not quite sure. So if I'm doing it wrong, that's important, because that might change my opinion on the game, because the way we just play it goes by the word of the rules, which is as long as you are touching someone else's piece, at least diagonally or orthogonally, you can place your piece there. So we did that, which created really bizarre starting places, especially in a 4-player game. But yes, that is something to note. Also, with the 4-player games, it's kind of Wild Wild West, and there's a lot of randomness because you have 3 people going in between your turns, and so you can't really plan too much when you first start. Last but not least, I think some people are really, really, really going to hate the fact that in a 3 and 4-player game, when someone checkmates and they capture somebody else's king, they can put all their pieces back on the board, potentially replacing the other person's. Because you don't kill them all, you capture them. Which means if your queen got captured earlier in the game, but you just captured some other player's queen by capturing their king, then you get to put your queen back on the board. You get to put a bunch of pawns and rooks and all that sort of stuff back on the board. And that's really annoying. And I think a lot of people are not going to like that. Moving on to the pros, I give this one a very lukewarm recommendation. I enjoyed it. I found it to be fun with 3 and 4 players. Now, part of that is definitely the novelty, because even though it is like chess, it has a lot of differences, and it's fun. It's simple, and it's fun, and if you played chess before, the rules are very simple to teach once they understand the trapping and the setup. And I think if you have a group of 3 or 4 players, who likes to play chess, this is something that they could play every once in a while and get enjoyment out of it. But with that being said, I don't think most people actually will. I feel like if you like chess, this is going to be too far off the beaten path for you to really enjoy it. And if you don't like chess, you're just not going to like this, period. So this is an absolute try before you buy. I'm not recommending anybody just go out and buy this. But if you enjoy chess, if you enjoy a little bit of randomness, and if you're going to play this 3 and 4 players, I had fun with it, but I don't think I'm going to keep it. So that's my recommendation. Tile chess, it's okay. It's different. It's intriguing, but it could have been better. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to click on the subscribe button down below and in the comments below. Let me know, have you ever done any major reconstruction on your house/apartment where you live? Me personally, we installed a new floor on my kitchen, and that's where I actually came up with this, because we installed tile. And it was terrible. We were down on our knees all day, my back hurt, but it looks nice. It's been there for a couple of years now, and we did it way cheaper than anybody else quoted us for. So that, it felt good to go out and do that. But have you done any major home reconstruction? Let me know about it in the comments below. And as always, thanks for your time, YouTube.